Astronaut Stephen West was returning from outer space. But something terrible had happened.
Remember now, his mind is so completely decomposed.
We've got to find him.
He's going to need human cells to live on.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hello, people.
This week, we're discussing, I don't even know how to describe this movie, The Incredible Melting Man, starring some people.
Who recommended this, by the way?
This is our friend Antonio from the Cultworthy podcast. He did us dirty.
What did you do to offend him that we had to watch this?
I thought we were friends, homie, and you do me like this?
Honestly, at one point I fell asleep and was startled awake by the cat, and then I had acid reflux and watched the end of this mess.
So you were the melting woman.
The slop gave me indigestion, I think.
Each week on the podcast that wouldn't die, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genres with a comedic twist, hopefully. So good times had by all, generally. So how is your day going?
It has been raining for 2 days. Before that, it hadn't rained in like 160 days. That's how parched we are. Yeah.
We are parched, ladies and gentlemen. Sweet Jesus.
I couldn't even teach today because the kids were just like, what's going on? What's falling from the sky? And we're talking about 17, 18-year-olds.
Well, ironically, I had a bunch of kids absent. Bunch of kids who are normally, let's just say, my frequent flyers. We're not here today.
I think it's kids who walk to school, maybe.
Oh, maybe. Maybe it was like rock you like a hurricane, essentially.
We were watching birds fly by in strange directions by the window. We had there's like a tiny little tree by my window, and it was like, Miss, the tree's gonna blow over, Miss.
They just call you Miss?
Yes.
That's interesting. Okay. That's like on Webster. If anybody remembers Webster. His adoptive parents, he refers to his adoptive father as George and refers to his adopted mother as ma'am. So
that's
very
just
sad.
Insane. That just seems very uncomfortable.
Well, and I have to talk. So now that I've brought this back into my mind, if anybody remembers Webster, it's little Emmanuel Lewis, right?
Yes.
Okay. Originally, the plot for the show was going to focus on this husband and wife couple, played by George Karras, former NFL player, and his real life wife, whose name
from the Goonies.
Not from that's John Matuzak was in the Goonies.
Oh, they're all kind of Goonie.
Yes. Well, what's funny is the woman who's his wife in real life was going to play his wife on the show. I remember her from this show, and I also remember her as being Cherry in the Porky's movie. She was the hooker, the older hooker in Porky's.
Jesus.
And so it was just going to be a sitcom about their marriage and their life together. The studio was like, hey, you know what's a big hit? Different Strokes. What if we give you an adoptive African-American little person? How's that grab you? And they're like, I guess that's okay. Okay. And now the show's going to be called Webster after that little person. How's that sound? I guess that's okay.
The studios love that. They found these poor kids with some kind of disability, hormonal birth defect, so they can play like they're 5, but they're 16, and they never grow smaller. I mean, they never grow larger. So
they definitely never grow smaller. That is true. That would be a story.
The incredible shrinking Webster.
That is correct. So that's neither here nor there. Give us your 30-second synopsis of The Incredible Melting Man.
Well, at first you think you're watching, 2001 with the high-tech glory, but you're not. People try to go to space. Apparently they never heard of radiation out in space. A sun flare happens. We're never sure how. If everyone dies except for one dude because of the radiation, how did the spacecraft land? Anyway, He's all melty and he escapes the hospital because he's hungry. And he's hungry. What is he hungry for, Kevin? Sweet, sweet brains. And he's sloppy, dripping everywhere. He is just a disgusting monster. Yet he seems to recognize some people. He seems to feel pain. Like he got his arm chopped off and he was upset by that. Not upset by the fact that his eye fell out and his ear sloughed off. And he's like a melted old shitty candle. But otherwise, he's just on a rage. There's no rhyme or reason.
Oh my God.
Until he melts. Like he's on a 24-hour binge eating old people. I mean, don't you get full? You're not dead. So are you just making poops every 2 minutes? Or did your colon fall out? I don't know. But anyway, he eats people until he himself just finally melts and an old hobo comes and sweeps him up and throws him in a trash can. The end.
First of all, not an old hobo. He's a custodian. That wasn't, how dare you look, he's got a job to do. He takes pride in his work. What? Anyway.
But he picked it up with his hands. There's way too much people touching the slop and going, ew, what is this stinky, this gooey stuff that I'm rubbing on my hand? I was waiting for someone to taste it. Taste it!
That happened multiple times. There's like some slop rubbed up on a palm tree, and this little girl goes, ew, there's something sticky on this tree, and literally keeps rubbing her hand on. No one does that. No one's like, there's a weird viscous substance. Why did I rub it all over my hands?
No.
Taste
it. It's tasty too. Tastes just like candy.
Just like candy. Had you even heard of this movie?
It seems like I've heard the title. I've definitely heard the title, but clearly had not seen it. I might have gotten it confused with The Devil's Rain, which ends in a very similar way. But that movie's about the glories of acid rain and devil worship.
That's William Shatner. William Shatner's in The Devil's Rain, I believe.
What?
Yes, if I'm remembering this correctly, this was post Star Trek: The Original Series being canceled, but before Star Trek: The Motion Picture, when that kind of nebulous, "Hey, I just got to pay my rent too" kind of phase of William Shatner's
and a bad
life.
Wig. I can't afford a good wig. I'm wearing the bad wig.
I'll take whatever wig you got. Go to your costume shop. Find me a wig, slop it on my head. We're good to go.
A Daniel Boone cap will do in a pinch.
An old coonskin cap? Is that what you're saying? Exactly.
Honestly, they could have used a little devil worship here. Basically, all you're doing is watching the radioactive drippy man wander around a town full of his friends.
Yeah.
And it literally is almost only killing people he knows.
Spoiler alert.
And then eating them like a zombie. He looks like a George Romero zombie, but clearly 2001 was still buzzing in people's heads. So let's try to mix space with that. And all through the whole movie, you just keep hearing, it's like the Saturn 1 or something. I don't know. The name of the spacecraft. That's all he hears. And then he thinks, gotta eat me an old person.
Gotta eat me an old person. Now, here's the thing. I like you, I'm fairly convinced I'd heard this title before.
Yes.
Fairly convinced. Not 100%. I wouldn't bet my life on it, but I think so. That being said, never seen it. I don't think I've even seen stills from it.
No.
Nothing.
No.
No, I have no idea what it's about. So we're walking in cold. Unawares, if you will.
The big problem is, like the zombie films, like when we watch Zombie, and there's 400-year-old Spanish conquistadores who gotta be like when you take a bone out of an Instapot where you can crush it in your hand. Why isn't someone just like pushing them over? I mean, this dude is just slopping. He's not even like leprosy from the House of the Dragon, King Viserys. This dude is just dripping his ear off, and eye just bubbled like he farted in his eye, and his eye dribbled out.
His eyeball literally just falls out at one point. Just drops out. And a little girl cries, can't say I blame her. basically.
That is nasty. But now, once again, he's sloppy and melting and has no peripheral vision. It seems like you could avoid this son's a bitch.
Well, his friend, the doctor, Ted, later in the movie says, it seems the more he melts, the stronger he gets.
Which makes no sense. As there is less of him, the stronger he gets. Eventually, I think by the end, when he was just a pair of pants, that's him at his most fierce.
His most fierce. Okay, so let's just, 3 astronauts are sent on a mission to Saturn, basically. That's where
something
it starts
we can't do right now.
Something we can, again, this is 1977 or something.
A lot of flights into deep space.
Into deep space. And while they were there, something happens, unclear, which kills 2 of the astronauts and turns the other one into kind of a melty mess. But somehow he has the wherewithal to pilot the shuttle back to Earth. Right?
It seems like in the 70s, that was the go-to. Like, if you've had too much radiation, you get melty.
That's it. Okay.
That's the go-to.
So they talk about how he is now radioactive, and that's what's melting him. And yet, you see no one take special precautions when dealing with him.
Because they scan. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I need to clarify here. They literally said he's radioactive, but not enough to hurt you. Not enough to hurt you, but enough for him to melt.
Well, at one point they said, don't touch him. He's radioactive. So I don't know.
Make up their mind.
They
don't know.
Yes. So he is in a hospital bed, wrapped up like the mummy. And they're like, well, what do we do? Go ahead.
I made a comment. I like you. They wrap you like a mummy and then put like a Ricky Ricardo pajama top and bottom over your bandages.
Over your bandages. And when he has been secured to the bed with straps for some reason. As of right now, we just think this is just some dude who's been injured. So why are they strapping him down? Unclear. He has night terrors. Who's to say? He gets out of bed and immediately reveals his melty ass hands, which were not wrapped in any kind of bandages or gauze or anything.
But were in fact 5 times larger than an actual human hand, and they look like they had pepperonis burned on them.
That is good. Wilt Chamberlain's hands are not this big. Okay, they're huge and sloppy, drippy.
It would be Wilt Chamberlain's hands if you put them on Billy Barty.
That is correct.
And you glued pepperonis to them.
And you glued, no question. These are.
I was like, what the hell? That was like, I mean, he was sufficiently disgusting and drippy, but then why did you have these weird rubber hands? That was so stupid.
To be extra drippy. So he pulls off his bandages because he sees his hands and he's upset to reveal his melty ass face, which was only beginning to be kind of, I mean, it was definitely melty, but it was still kind of the resemblance of a person who's kind of melty. He had a mustache and everything.
Well, his name was, the actor's name was Alex Rebar. Clearly a porn name.
Oh, no question.
Nothing more pornographic than Alex Rebar here.
Star of Debbie Does Dallas. Yes. So at that point, I guess he murders the nurse who walks in with 2 huge jugs of blood for no reason and then just smashes them on the floor, drops them in fear, runs down the hall.
Does he murder the nurse? Well, I couldn't understand why she was just running down the hall and then ran through glass.
Yes.
For no apparent reason.
He gently scratches her off camera. There's a lot of people who get killed off camera in this movie. Scratches her cheek off camera. She's running down the hall screaming and approaches a glass door. And rather than opening it, throws herself through it. He's not upset.
And it was super shitty 70s glass too.
Yes.
It was like if it was like made out of sugar or something.
It was sugar glass.
It wasn't quite opaque, you know.
Right.
I mean, it was clearly not any glass you'd see in the human world.
So at this point, we're like, well, wait a minute. Obviously the dude's melty. Okay. He's suffering from, radiation causes you to become melty. Got it. Check. But now we're starting to figure out, and it's making him insane, I guess.
And hungry.
Well,
And hungry.
that's a
And
reveal
isn't
later.
this is like the VA. Had people coming in from Vietnam. Why is the nurse just running screaming down when you see just a little melty face? I mean, you got people all jacked up in Vietnam.
You got to work on your bedside manner, Toots. Okay, the moment you see somebody who's a little melty, you cannot go running, screaming down the hall and throw yourself out the window.
Well,
It's
if she
frowned
wasn't
upon.
terminated, she would have been terminated.
Oh, no question. No question. Here's your severance. No 2 weeks notice. You're right. She's not killed on camera, but we think just by virtue of how long the slow motion run down the hall screaming. That was 10 minutes of the movie, by the way.
At one point, she is holding her giant bosoms so they don't break free. Did you notice that?
Yes, I did.
I'm like, I feel you, sister, but maybe for the movie we don't do that, or we just double up on a bra. But yeah, she's holding her boobs, just running like this. This is what I'm going to do for the TikTok. I'll be reenacting.
Yes, please do. People will love it. Yes, that is correct. So so the next 45, 50 minutes of the movie is the melty man just kind of wandering from place to place, wandering here in the swamp, wandering here in the desert. Where am I going?
And dripping.
Yes.
And simultaneously in the forest and the desert.
Yes.
Have you noticed that?
I did notice that.
It was like an Ed Wood film where like it's daylight when they got out of the car, but now it's the middle of the night now that they've stepped 4 feet.
That is correct. That is correct. So he goes, I'm going to walk through each murder because each is amazing in its own bizarro way. There's a guy fishing in full fishing regalia, the hat, the whole deal, in the swamp, because that's what we do.
As one does. That's where the piranha are.
He was obviously fishing for piranha, and he is murdered by the melty man, who, and then it smash cut to his head bouncing down a waterfall.
I have to tell you, that is truly the best part of the entire movie. I was like, what the hell? And it was just bouncing, going down. It was like lobbing down the waterfall, chunks of meat are flying off of it, and they're just kind of bobbing around. It follows the trail of the water. I mean, it's fantastic.
I started to fall asleep at this point.
Yeah.
The bouncing head going over the waterfall, that perked me right up. I was back on board. Then there's the kids playing hide and go seek in the swamp, as we do.
Swamp / desert / forest.
Exactly. And of course, her mean friends ditch her, and she turns a corner, and there's the melty man. She looks up screaming as we cut to the melty man's eyeball just literally just falls out of the socket and just drips on his cheek and falls on the ground. Good time.
I mean, you can almost see the special effects person blowing a straw because it was literally like a bubble, and then it's just kind of blew.
It was hilarious, to say the least.
Hilarious. I would agree with that.
Now, in the desert section of the swamp, there is a dude photographing a young starlet. And then halfway through the photo shoot, he's like, okay, now take your top off, honey. What are you doing? Oh, I think we've got some mistake.
You need some help with that? I got my friend Harvey here. He'll help you rip off your tube top. It reminded me, I don't know if you remember this in LA, but there was that photographer who took a model out and, bad things ensued.
This was a bad thing. He was not.
This was a bad thing.
He was not taking no for an answer. And by the way, you will not have recognized her, but the young print model, whatever she was supposed to be, was
Christy Teigens.
Was not. First of all, there's no one named Christy Teigens, but that's neither here nor there.
Was it Cheryl Teigs or Christy Teigen?
One of the two, or neither. She was the love interest for the immortal classic Laser Blast. So there you go. And all time, she had a very well-storied career, going from Melty Joe. Go ahead.
That would be a perfect job for me. In my when I retire, that's my dream, to be an elderly scream queen. I'll be in Laser Blast 4.
Yep.
I'll be a couple of corpses on CSI.
Please.
Whatever you got to do. Whatever you got to do.
Whatever you got to do. And so I zip drive by.
And then
Go
the
ahead.
photographer is like Leisure Suit Larry.
Oh, absolutely. But okay, in the swamp with the kids playing hide and go seek, there was the first scene of, oh, what's this weird slop on this tree? It's so sticky and slimy. Let's not touch weird slop you find just out in nature. No kidding.
Oh, and then the boys were jackasses. They're all like smoking their cigarettes, and then they're laughing at her because she saw a zombie with its eye pop out while they're reading their Playboy while going through people's mailboxes.
That is correct. As one does.
Criminals. That's a federal crime. That's a federal crime.
It is a federal offense. No lie. Hashtag facts. What you got? Anything?
Oh my God. Well, first of all, actually, the first thing that popped in my head was Italian water snakes, but that was the last movie we watched. Still love the Italian. I like the fact that he is so sloppy that his ooze is seeping through his clothes.
Yes.
At some point, except for his britches, you can't even see it. The next best thing, and they are ridiculous for leaving this in, while he's still at the hospital and tears off the facial mask, he literally has a Kleenex up his nose that's just hanging there as he's running around. Am I right or am I right?
Yes.
It's just it's shoved up his nose, hanging down. I mean, maybe that's why the nurse took off, because that was just so disgusting.
That would do it.
It's so disgusting. And he breathes like he's Darth Vader.
Yes. Because he's wearing a big thick mask. His melty face mask is quite encumbersome, I would say.
I would imagine.
So
wait a minute. Yeah, I have the quote. You mean he's radioactive? Well, just a little bit. That's the quote. I wrote it down.
Just a little bit.
And then I wrote, my eye fell out.
My eye fell out, mommy.
Mommy.
Yes. So he murders the fisherman, and we don't know why. At this point, up to this point, we just think he's confused and strange because he's melty. But now he murders the fisherman and basically like rips his guts out off camera. There's a lot of murders that happen off camera.
We don't know. We never see him murder anyone. We just see the after effects.
That's correct.
Did we ever see him murder anyone? No. We always see him later straddling them, trying to take a bite out of them.
That's correct. So later in the movie, there's the general who answers the door to the melty man. And the melty man grabs him and bites his cheek. And that's the first time we realize, oh, he's eating these people. He's eating them. Why is he eating them? No explanation.
Why is he so hungry?
Right.
Why is he so hungry? And why he should have like a fat belly? Because he's eaten like 5 people.
Right.
Seems like a lot. I mean, hospital food is not good, but you are not going to be 5 people short of a bellyache, you know.
Oh, that's sad but true. And we zip drive by the fact there's a whole subplot of the doctor's wife has invited her mom and her mom's boyfriend over for dinner. And the doctor's like, oh, sweet Jesus, can't you reschedule? But honey, they're already on the way. Then it's like Ma and Pa Kettle driving down the street. Oh, what should we do? Oh, there's some orange groves over here. Honey, those aren't orange groves. Those are lemon groves. Well, let's go over and steal some lemons. Okay, honey. And of course, smash cut. They're about to steal lemons, as the elderly are prone to do. Hear a noise. They jump back in the car going, let's get out of here. This is too scary. They look in the rearview mirror. Melty man's in the back seat. And that's the end of Ma and Pa Kettle.
Natural consequences.
You get what you get.
That's it. You try to steal, that's it. In some countries, that's enough.
That's enough. So smash cut to they should have been here by now.
Maybe the melty man is an avenging angel.
As he should be. So then it smash cuts to him. You can't really see what's happening. He's kind of like gnawing on something because he's still sitting in the back seat of the Cadillac Eldorado, and he's chewing, chewing on and he just throws a hand out the window. So at this point, we realize, oh, I guess he ate those poor old people. That's
literally nothing left. Like he gnawed on their skull like he was trying to crack a walnut. We must assume, since all that's left is an old hand.
It's an old hand. Now later,
it's like when you're eating crab. You know, you start getting to the end with the little tiny legs. You don't want to mess around after a while, so you throw it out the window.
It's not worth it.
That's like the hand, I guess, for melting spacemen.
Now there's a later scene where the sheriff discovers the car and does the kind of, oh my God, kind of. We don't see what's in the car. I mean, who knows what was in the car, what wasn't in the car? But his reaction, sweet baby Jesus, no! But we never know. Could be anything.
We know. That's probably just as well because the melty man is disgusting enough.
Melty man. Go ahead.
I put down, oh, so much yellow custard.
Yes.
What part of our body would melt to be like that?
I'd rather not even speculate.
Fat? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out. But fat, I assume, would be like butter. It would turn clear. So much yellow custard dripping.
Tapioca
all
pudding.
The time.
Nonstop. Because whenever they show him...
Now when I eat tapioca, you got to put that in my mind. I love tapioca.
I do as well.
Son of a...
I might have
but
some
it's
later.
more like that crazy British custard, that bright yellow stuff.
That's true. No, so he's wearing essentially a melty skull face, but before every time they show it, they clearly slop him up with some kind of weird slimy stuff. So whenever they show him, he's constantly just dripping. His hands are dripping, his face is dripping. There's a lot of drippings, is all I'm saying.
I agree. He is, in fact, a mess. I had a fun idea. What if the drippy stuff was, in fact, the stuff? Remember that movie?
Just
Kevin?
can't get enough of the stuff.
See, wouldn't that be fantastic? Then you'd want to lick the melting man. He's so delicious.
So delicious.
He's radioactive, but just a little bit.
Just a little bit. There is a scene where the doctor's wife hears a noise. So she's very upset because she doesn't know if the melting man's coming. She goes into the kitchen. And it looks like somebody has taken like a glass jar of milk and just smashed it onto the ground in the middle of the kitchen. And she goes, oh my God. And there's the cat nearby licking the milk. Oh, did you do that, little Sally? Or whatever the name of the cat was. There's no way the cat could have done this for a variety of reasons.
Tell us. Cats knock shit over, Kevin.
Cats knock shit over.
And they do it on purpose. But here's the thing. This glass jug of milk was in the middle of the floor, no tables, no counters, within 10 feet of it. So did the cat open up the fridge, take the glass jug out of the fridge, close the fridge door, walk 10 feet to the center of the room, and then slam it onto the ground? Interesting. I once left a half gallon of milk in the back of my Chevy Lumina.
Not the story.
For Lord knows how much time, because the Chevy Lumina could be used by the mafia because you can shove a whole family in there.
Yep.
And I was reaching back and I found it was a gallon of milk. And it was so swollen, like a tick ready to pop, that I gingerly removed it and left it in someone's shopping cart.
Wait a minute.
I suspect that could have popped.
So you were in I'm assuming the parking lot of the Ralph's
correct,
or whatever, the Alpha Beta.
Correct.
You pulled out some old curdled milk from your trunk. Then what? You ran back into the supermarket and just shoved it into some random person's cart?
There, in fact, was a cart next to my car because it was like those people who dig up those World War II mines. It could go at any minute. It was not safe for me to do anything but abandon it in another cart.
But it sounds to me like you sacrificed an innocent person. You just lobbed a grenade basically into a school bus and called it even.
I'm sorry, minimum wage checker and cart retriever, but it's part of your duty.
To perish at your hands? Interesting.
In honor. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Later in the movie,
I did something similar with mushrooms. I couldn't figure out what that smell was. I had like one of those giant Costco containers of mushrooms rolling around in the back of the Lumina. I was like, it smells like dirt in here. What is that over? And then I found the mushrooms, and they were.
Well, for all you know, the mushrooms were just growing in your car. The way you described your hygiene. This is about to make me yak. This is far more upsetting than anything in The Incredible Melting Man. I'll tell you that.
It was less terrifying than the giant milk bomb.
Interesting. Okay, let's get back to the real horror here.
I'm not sure that I have like 3 more notes. That's all.
I got a few more.
Lay it on me, bro.
There's the scene where there's a young couple coming back from the movies, where her husband goes in. Whoa, why is our door unlocked? Goes in, is killed off screen. So he's dead man. She goes in by herself later, finds the melty man. She barricades herself in the kitchen, and she's like putting stuff against the door that leads into the kitchen, even though there's a door that leads like to freedom and safety. She just run out the door, run for her life. She does not do that. She barricades. Go ahead.
I would like to discuss this. Because that same door is used by the general and the doctor to enter the house. So what happened here?
We may never know.
Is it going to the bedroom or is it the door to the outside? Because I think they're playing it both ways.
Right. This is basically a middle school production of The Incredible Melting Man. She reaches into a drawer and pulls out the biggest meat cleaver I have ever seen. Like, who would have this that is not working in a butcher shop?
Well, Lizzie Borden, maybe.
Jeffrey Dahmer was like, that knife's too big. Put it back in the drawer. She uses it to chop off the Incredible Melty Man's arm. Like butter. Arm just blops off. And then we get to watch the Incredible Melty Man walk around with his arm clearly just hidden in his shirt.
Oh, it's so ridiculous. And then he falls over and you watch him try to get up with only one arm.
You see the other arm trying to get out of the shirt to help out. Can't do it, bro.
It was beautiful. It was truly something we could have created. And once again, Kevin, I need to say, when the family is together, we need to create a short movie.
Should it be The Incredible Melty Man Part 2?
No, because we can't get any of the brothers to put the slop on. So that would have to be post-production.
Put the slop on.
Slop off.
The slopper. Later, when the kindly sheriff first he shoots Melty Man twice with shotgun, doesn't do anything. Melty Man grabs the sheriff with one arm, throws him off the high, railing or whatever. He lands on some power lines, and it's like they took a mannequin and shoved it full of bottle rockets. That's how much sparkling is occurring, even when it hits the ground.
Once he hits the ground, though, he's a pork crackling, that's for sure.
He's a pork crackling with sparks, like sparklers still shooting out like it's the 4th of July. This is serious business.
Thank you for your service, General.
Thank you for your service. What you got? I got one more, but you go ahead.
I just want to know, why isn't he just slipping? One, why is he crying when he got his arm chopped off? Because he's melting.
Yes.
You would figure your nerves are on overload. And 2, why isn't he just slipping on everything? Either that, Or are you getting taller because everything's sticking to you? Why aren't more things sticking to you?
It seemed like because he kept walking through like the wilderness, and crud was sticking to the bottom of his slimy feet as he walked. So I don't know. I guess he's okay.
Eventually, he starts looking like the Thing, or not the Thing, but who's the little hairy dude? That's
I have no idea what
in,
you're talking about.
in,
Chewbacca?
in the Addams Family.
Oh. There's it and there's Cousin
It.
Thing.
Wait
a minute. It's Thing and Cousin It. That's what it is. It's
the Thing is the hand, Cousin It. It's Cousin It. But that's because like a wind picks up and there's a hayfield by, so they all stick it. So under Cousin It is in fact the Incredible Melting Man.
Interesting.
Porn star extraordinaire.
Now, we mentioned this earlier. The closing moments, the Melting Man literally just liquefies. Just liquefies. Smash cut to a kindly janitor who, look, even if it does not resemble a body, it's clearly a crime scene of some sort. It is blood and viscera just splattered.
There are fluids.
And he probably just starts cleaning it up and putting the chunks in the trash can that are right there with his hands.
I like to assume this is like a mafia warehouse.
Yes.
So this is just a Tuesday. They had the drums, and eventually they seal them and drop them on the bottom of Lake Tahoe.
Could be.
Or is it Lake Mead outside of Vegas, where all of a sudden all the cars and all the bodies and drums of people are popping up now that we're in the super drought?
Could be. So that's the ignominious.
It makes the story better, don't you think?
Could be. That's the ignominious end of the Incredible Melting Man. He just gets dumped into the trash with the other assorted refuse. Good Lord.
Again, in the 70s, there was a lot of environment and message movies. So I think the message here is you shouldn't go to space. That's it.
I think you're right.
Stay home.
No question.
Stay home.
That is the message.
Don't go to space. I mean, look at 2001. That didn't work out so well either. Don't go to space.
It's a sad situation.
And the Challenger. They keep showing us, don't go to space.
Wow.
And do we listen? No.
When will we listen? Do you realize that we have not landed on the moon in my entire lifetime?
But to do what? Kick a rock?
To kick a rock.
We haven't figured out how to mine it yet.
That's true. No, the last time someone actually set foot on the moon was 1972. 3 years before I was born.
Eventually we will harvest it and well, when President Musk takes over, the things will be a little bit different.
That's correct.
Emperor.
Shall we go behind the scenes?
The Sith Lord that we call Musk.
That is correct.
He has plans. Him and Bezos. Just you wait, friend. You'll be on Mars doing the mining, and I'll be here with, I don't know. I guess I'll be dead.
I guess I'll be dead in this scenario. Shall we go behind the scenes?
Oh, please do. Tell me that the lead guy did porn with that name. Come on.
You know what? Let's just leave some things to the imagination. Who knows what we may uncover here behind the scenes. The film's budget was so low that the production could not afford stock footage of Saturn for its opening scene. Instead, public domain stock footage of the sun and a satellite was used for the scene where Scorpio 5 orbits Saturn. That's why you never see any rings. They look out the window, it looks like a solar flare, even though they are, what? I don't know how far Saturn is from the sun, but let's just say they're not right next to each other. So
no, Saturn's farther away from the sun than we are.
That was called sarcasm. I know that.
I was concerned for you.
Sweet
well,
Jesus.
And here's the other thing. Ed Wood did use stock footage. So this is like they couldn't afford stock footage, but Ed Wood could.
How much more expensive would it have been to get footage of actual Saturn? That's my question.
Or just hold a picture up out of Life magazine.
Make something out of paper mache, okay? Good Lord. Anywho, the Melting Man effects were made by master makeup artist Rick Baker, who did a truck ton of stuff over the years.
Yes, I
you love all of
agree.
his
I
work.
agree. So much custard.
So much custard. It was syrup and paint, and the drippy substance would have to be reapplied for every take of the Melty Man. At the end of each shoot, he would have so much of that crap on him, he would literally have to peel his costume off. Sounds
So
sounds
nasty.
lovely. Um,
Who did the makeup for the Hellraisers?
I don't know. That's a good
All right,
question.
never mind.
That's neither here nor there.
That's neither here nor there.
Rick Baker created a number of gruesome appliances for the Melty Man, but they were never used because he basically said, "F it, I'm not putting any more of this crap on me. This is enough. Enough, I say." Famed director Jonathan Demme, who you know from directed Silence of the Lambs, for example.
Yeah.
He
Did he direct this?
He did not. He plays the young, remember the young couple who just came back from the movies? He's the boyfriend who goes in and is killed off camera.
Oh, that's fun. That's a fun fact.
Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah, he gets 2 seconds. He goes inside because they hear something and just never comes
We
back.
never see. We see some blood splattered around like the refrigerator, but that's it. That's the end of him.
Yeah.
The director, William Sachs, originally intended the film to be a campy comic book type homage to old school monster movies. However, the producers wanted a more grim, straightforward horror picture. The clashing of ideas resulted in much of the offbeat and occasionally bizarre tone of the film. Occasionally bizarre tone of the film. Interesting.
Oh, such bullshit.
Wah wah. Rick Baker. A lot of these things are about the special effects guy.
Because he's the most famous person associated with
No question. He was resistant to working on this movie. He felt he'd moved beyond the B horror films. And so when they asked him how much, he threw out...
This is like a C or a D.
He thought he would throw out just an exorbitant number, figuring they would just turn him down. They did not. They met his demand, and that's why he worked on it. Very sad. The Halloween season, which followed the film's release, brought at least 2 official merchandising products. They produced a ready-to-wear children's costume, and they offered a Melting Man face makeup kit.
Shit, I'm going on to eBay right now. Keep talking. I'm going on to eBay, see if I can't get me my incredible Melting Man costume for my 8-month-old child.
The German title of this film is Der Planet Saturn lasset schon grüßen, which means best regards from Planet Saturn. That's helpful. Let's see. The film was shot in 14 days. Clearly.
Oh, I believe that.
Clearly.
Where?
Let's see. The film's Spanish title is Viscosidad, which means
viscosity,
stickiness.
Or something? Ew.
Wah, wah, wah.
Well, I'm sad to report that I cannot find the incredible Melting Man costume on eBay. Just a bunch of Blu-ray bullshit.
That's very upsetting. Let's see. Rick Baker originally created 4 distinct stages of makeup evolution.
Of decomp.
Or devolution, if you will.
Devo.
But due to editing and time constraints, they just said F it. So he's got the one where he's in the hospital and the rest of the movie where he's basically a melty skull creature.
He looks like a George Romero zombie.
Yes.
Except for the extra slop.
Extra slopified. To create the effect of the murdered fisherman's head falling down a waterfall and smashing on the rocks below, makeup artists...
They got a real head.
They used a real corpse. They used a gelatin head with a wax skull inside that's filled with fake blood. When the scene was shot, the fake head burst upon impact. Just exploded. Oh, yeah.
It was a good shot. It was ridiculous, of course, because it didn't look like a real person, but it was super funny.
It was hilarious. Candies were made and sold to advertise the film as a promotional gimmick.
Was it the bouncy head and the inside was filled with some kind of sour sauce?
Yes. As a matter of fact. Okay, there's one more thing I wanted to read about. Somebody talked about how this movie's actually very sad and depressing if you think about all the things that happen. So it says,
Well, a lot of people die.
despite the film being played out as silly and a parody homage to monster films, fans of the film have noted that the circumstances involving Steve West, the astronaut, and the ending were surprisingly poignant and depressing. This is due to a few reasons. Are you ready for this?
Okay. Well, the end does very sad. I mean, he was supposed to be a hero. He still has the stuff of the spaceship, and then he dies alone, alone and friendless,
He does.
waiting to be thrown in the trash.
Due to the human errors of the space mission shown at the beginning of the film, the incident resulted in Steve West slowly turning into a monster, figuratively and literally, and the deaths of his two comrades. Not to mention the fact that the facility wanted to keep the incident a secret shows how they contributed to the awful events that unfolded throughout the film following the ill-fated
Yeah.
space mission and Steve West's ghastly injuries and transformation. Okay?
Okay, first of
Go
all,
ahead.
why is there just a doctor in charge and it's a military situation? And then the next ship was going off and they had
Yes.
like the fake telex from the crew because they're lying to the public that they're all recuperating. And best of luck to you guys. Are they going to all be melty too,
Yes,
Kevin?
they are. Steve's friend, Dr. Ted Nelson, throughout the film has vouched for him and has tirelessly searched for him to try to help him with his condition. When Ted finally does find him at the end of the film, he briefly gets through to Steve, only for two security guards to carelessly and fatally gun him down, which resulted in Steve killing the guards in retaliation. That was the funniest scene. He's like, wait, don't shoot. And then they just shoot him. They shoot the innocent
Yeah.
doctor for no reason.
They're
Very
like, screw
strange.
this.
The only person who truly cared about him and wanted to help him was killed in front of him, further showing how human errors can cause disastrous consequences.
Again, don't go to space. That's the answer.
There's more. This was
Oh, no.
especially
No.
upsetting to me. With
Oh, wait, is this somebody's doctoral
Yes!
thesis?
with Ted dead, his wife Judy is now a widow, and his unborn child will grow up without a father. Ted and Judy had previously been trying for a baby, and she unfortunately kept having miscarriages.
Well, she might miscarry this one.
She
so look
might.
on the bright side.
Furthermore, their marriage seemed to be somewhat strained, and Ted was shown to be short with her at times. However, toward the end of the film, before he left to search for Steve, he apologized to his wife for his harsh behavior and promised to be better to her. This is the last
Well,
conversation they have.
And she's not going to remember it because he's doped her up on Quaaludes or whatever to sleep out the melty attack.
That's a whole other
She'll
thing.
be like, where am I?
They're
Where am I?
they're constantly drugging up his pregnant wife. Put her full of who knows
Is
what.
this why she's having so many miscarriages? This is starting to sound like the plot of Geek Love. Did you ever read Geek Love?
Hell, I'm not reading no Geek Love about biting the heads off.
Geek
Nightmare
Love.
Alley?
The dad would always give pregnant mom like chemicals and chlorine and brew these concoctions because they wanted to breed freaks.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
No, but even the ones that didn't make it at least made it into a jar, and you can pay a nickel to go see them.
That's lovely. Last thing. After momentarily avenging his friend's death at the end of the film, now alone, Steve continues wandering around and he passes away to his body finally eroding into a pile of human remains and goo. Sometime later, a janitor, unknowingly, scoops up and disposes of Steve's remains as if he were trash. As a result, nobody will know what ultimately happened to Steve West and possibly Ted Nelson or care.
Or care. Well, my thought is he's just finally got full and took a nap, and then he just passed away in his sleep
Is there
as his head collapsed into itself.
is there tryptophan in human flesh? That's my question.
A little red wine, a little old couple. There you go.
That's all
Take
you
a
need.
nice little nap.
Shall we talk about the cast and crew ever so briefly?
All right, talk about porn star Willie.
Okay, first of all,
What did he
William
do?
Sachs directed it. You know him from Galaxina, Spooky
Yeah.
House, There Is No
Spooky
13,
House.
and he was co-producer
Oh,
on the Leprechaun movie. There you go.
Oh, fantastic!
I want to talk
Fantastic.
about Rick Baker. Rick Baker
Is an icon.
is an icon. Let me see what we got here. That's
He's one of the two most famous makeup artists, although Rick Baker is not also trying to be the star of the show, too.
here you go. Rick Baker. You know him
American
from
Werewolf in London.
the new Planet of the Apes in 2001, Men in Black in 1997, The Wolfman in 2010, How the Grinch Stole Christmas in 2000, and many other things. I think he worked on Texas Chainsaw Massacre back in the 70s, if I remember correctly. Let's see.
He's still kicking it at 71.
Still doing his things. He is a legend of the makeup community. The cast, a bunch of randos. So I'm not going to go through everybody, but let me start with Steve West.
And I take it back because Rick Baker also put himself into movies, including Michael Jackson's Thriller, the zombie opening the crypt in Into the Night, Men in Black 2, Men in Black 3, The Wolfman, and Rings.
He's a fine actor.
The remake, and the 76 remake of King Kong.
That's a good one. I think he was actually King Kong in that movie, if I remember correctly.
He won the Academy Award for American Werewolf in London. He was nominated for Tarzan. He won for Harry and the Henderson. He was nominated for Coming to America. He won for Ed Wood. He won for The Nutty Professor. He won for Men in Black. He won for The Grinch.
Why are you saying
he won for The Wolfman?
The word is won. He didn't Juan anything.
He won!
$1 million to Juan.
God damn you.
Okay. Alex Rebar played Steve West, the Incredible Melting Man. You know him from The Incredible Melting Man. He was in Demented. He wrote the screenplay. So he writes a lot of stuff too. He's
a Renaissance man.
He wrote the screenplay to All a Good Night. You know it, don't you? He played the police captain in Terror on Tour about a rock band. Okay. Sweet G. It doesn't say anything about his adult film career. So that's upsetting.
But who is Burr de Benning? Burr de Benning
was Dr. Ted Nelson, the friendly guy.
Why did he look so familiar?
He did look familiar.
Looked familiar.
He was Mr. Jordan in A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. Does that do anything for you?
I don't remember what the hell Mr. Jordan was.
He did additional voice work on Turner and Hooch. And he did additional voice work on Death Becomes Her. Any of these ringing any bells for you?
No, he must have done television.
And of course, he was Dr. Ted Nelson in The Incredible Melting Man.
Of course.
Anybody else you want to know about?
No, not a damn thing.
Not a damn thing. Rainbow Smith played the model, also known as Cheryl Smith. You know her from Cinderella, The Erotic Adventures, Lamora, Up in Smoke as Laughing Lady, and The Incredible Melting Man, and of course, Laser Blast. So there you go. I think that's all we need to know. Shall we talk about the rating?
All right. So I'm ignoring you. I'm going back to Burr de Benning. He was also in Little House on the Prairie, New Adventures of Wonder Woman, Return of Captain Nemo,
like Day
House
Player.
of the Dead,
one episode here, an episode
Heart
there.
to Heart.
Yeah.
Cruisin', Wolfen, Arm Response.
He was familiar. He was familiar.
Yeah.
He was just one of those
Must
guys.
have been that episode of Heart to Heart I saw in 1902.
Heart to Heart, people who don't remember, there's a wealthy married couple who solve crimes with Max, their chauffeur, and she's gorgeous. That's what he used to say.
Gorgeous.
He would narrate the opening theme. So there you go. Stephanie Powers and Robert Wagner. There you go. Good time.
All right.
Incredible Melting Man currently is at 8%. Do you know what the audience gave it?
7?
24. 24%. Still rotten. Still a failing grade.
That is still the peach that's in the back of the fridge you go to pick up and it just squishes into your hands.
Or the big jug of milk in the back of your Illumina, Aaron. I think that's the cold hard reality. There are 2 top critics. Scott Tobias of the Dissolve, which I'm unfamiliar with, gave it
What the hell?
Gave it 0.5 out of 5. Even if The Incredible Melting Man were deliberately retro, recreating the look and feel of the stultifying drive-in undercard isn't exactly a laudable achievement. Okay. Tom Buckley of the New York Times gave it 1 out of 5. Each spring brings similar releases to fill the need of drive-in operators for something cheap to put on the screen for the kids in the cars to ignore or laugh at. So
I'm sorry, drive-in movie operators? Do you think are there drive-ins anymore?
they seem like these reviews were written back in the 70s.
At the time.
However, if
I was
you
going to
look,
say, Aaron from the Villa High School movie review says.
Exactly.
I mean, this seems like the quality we're dealing with here.
Sad but true. What is your rating?
While the bouncing head is amusing, and while the Rick Baker special effects are truly disgusting, I gotta give it one gallon of bloated goo in the trunk of my Chevy Lumina, about ready to pop on some old 15-year-old who's just got their first job working at the supermarket. If I show up every day, I can get one of them union jobs. 1 out of 5.
1 out of 5.
Bucket of Bloods.
I mean, it's hard for me to disagree too vociferously. I'm going to say 1.5 eyeballs dripping out of your socket onto some poor child who's playing hide and go seek in a swamp. Okay?
Really, what you want here is, this is like a Rick Baker movie role. So you want to see the eye pop out. This is just clip all that out. Make it like a Faces of Death. We'll call it the Faces of Rick Baker.
You'll love that.
Where it's just the highlights.
Just that.
Nobody eating a monkey brain or any of that.
It was, you know what? If you know what it is going in, it can be kind of enjoyable. But it's by
It was a little boring. I fell asleep. I don't normally fall asleep.
I
don't have the narcolepsy, and I am not yet my father. So thank you.
I am totally. It's a sad situation. I could have done without multiple scenes of the flashbacks of the astronauts circling Saturn. That was boring. And they don't tell you anything. You don't know what's happened, why this dude's doing what he's doing, what the story is. I guess he's radioactive.
This is a goddamn military base. Why aren't they this is a thing.
Yes.
Why isn't the military out trying to find this maniac?
2 dudes are after him. His doctor and the general, right? That's it.
The general who's just wearing like he's going out to the liquor store is how he's dressed.
Like Thurston Howell or somebody. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Lovey. Where's Lovey?
Where's Lovey? Anyway, thank you very much. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcast.
Did you even rate it? I don't even remember. Did you just agree with me and leave it at that?
Eyeballs dripping out of a socket and falling at the feet of some poor girl playing hide and go seek in a swamp. Yeah, that's hopefully not our audience as well. Go to our page on Facebook at the podcast that wouldn't die. Aaron, are we on Instagram?
We are on the gram. We are, in fact, the podcast that wouldn't die.
Are we on TikTok?
We're on the Ticker Talker. Guess what we're called? Can you guess?
I am bamboozled and flustered.
In fact, it is the podcast that wouldn't die.
Nicely done. You can also email us at the podcast that wouldn't die at Gmail. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. So don't forget to rate, review, like, share, do whatever you got to do. Help us out. Aaron, what is your personal social media footprint, for goodness sake?
I got much media. I am the Cult of Aaron on the Insta. Join the cult. I'm also Don't Feed the Pigeon. Don't DM me. You can buy my fantastic art on Artsy and First Dibs, Aaron Doherty. Boom. Do it. Holidays are fast approaching.
And that's the gift that keeps on giving the whole year long.
There will be no Black Friday flash sales.
Very sad. If that's what you were waiting on, no can do. Next week, we'll be discussing the new classic. We're going to find out, sadly. Don't Worry, Darling, starring Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, Chris Pine, Olivia Wilde. It's an all-star cast. Shia LaBeouf, maybe he's there as well. Who can say?
No, he got replaced by Styles.
You can watch it on HBO Max. So if you have HBO Max streaming, you can check that out. You don't have to pay full freight to go to the movies.
Did we already release Barbarian?
By the time people listen to this, we have.
Well, because it is also on HBO Max, kiddos.
Very nice. So kill two birds with one stone. Send any questions, comments, favorite scenes, favorite quotes, and maybe we'll talk about it on the show. So good times had by all. So thank you very much and be well.
Be well, children. Don't smoke crack. Don't take the fentanyl. Even if it looks like a sweet tart, it probably isn't. And in general, just don't take loose candy from strangers.
I don't like sweet tarts anyway. So
what the hell? They're the best. And when that little kick of fentanyl, that really makes your day.
If they put the fentanyl in, now it's fentanyl. If they put the fentanyl in,
it's piranha and the fontanelle.
Put the damn fentanyl in a Reese's peanut butter cup and we're in business. That's all I'm saying.
Put the fentanyl in your fontanelle. How about that?
Just right in there.
There needs to be more horror movies involving something going into your soft spot.
Well, as adults, we don't have soft spots. At least I don't. Maybe you still do, you freak.
That's where the melting starts.